Hi, friends. Welcome to another edition of Missions Monday. And we're talking missions today. And we wanted to step into the life or the daily life and schedule of some of our missionaries, both near and abroad. Just a snapshot of how they live their life on the field. We've talked about schedules and different things in the past, but this is a new series that we're starting called A Day in the Life of a Missionary. Just various missionaries that we have around the globe, actually, and how they live their life from beginning to end on a daily basis. What did the day look like? We often get asked that question in the missions office, and we get asked that question sometimes when we go and speak at different places. So what does an average day look like? What does the average missionary day look like? What does it look like? How does it operate? What do you do? What are your responsibilities? So we'll get into that today. And the first person we're going to be talking to about this day in the life is Pastor Gerold from Greater Grace Church of Menlyn in South Africa. Welcome, Pastor Gerold.
Hey, Pastor Renaldo, good to see you again, and thank you so much. I feel so special to be the first one, to be the first one to talk about the day in the life of. So yeah, thank you so much. It's always interesting to see how different men of God live their lives. So I'm also curious to hear about other people's lives as well. So I hope that my life can serve as some kind of contribution to others as well.
Beautiful. I think it's one of those kind of questions like you hear it in other ways of life, other activities, like what does an average day look like? I remember when I was younger, we had a program in school where we would go to the firehouse to see how a fireman, what does his day look like? What does he do in the morning? How does it operate? Because he puts out fires, but what is his average day? It's not a fire every day, all day. So it was a huge curiosity for me. So we spent the whole day there. We met the chief, we got the truck, the whole thing. And then I walked away with a glimpse of really what their life is like. Their life was very interesting, that it was a lot of waiting, and then suddenly launched into full speed action. So sometimes, you read the newsletters, you see the maps, you hear the stories, the incredible miracles, people getting saved, lives getting changed, disciples being made. You start hearing about different things, like churches being planted, miraculous escapes, healings, and things like this. And you just, okay, what is an average day? What does a day look like in the life of a missionary? All of that can fit in a day, but what happens? What exactly happens? Particularly with people that are interested in getting involved in missions, that want to be involved in missions. Their curiosity will be piqued to find out what exactly is happening. So for you, let's start from the beginning. How does this day really begin? I think the beginning often sets our course for the rest of the day. So how does a typical day or day in the life of Pastor Gerold in Southern Africa, how does that begin?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll start with just if maybe I can call it a little bit of a disclaimer, because there is often when we talk about people's schedules, we see this even a lot on social media as well. There is, I think we can easily talk about the ideal world where everything happens exactly the same every day, but we know it doesn't always happen that way. So even though I could say, like, I have a ideal schedule, which I try to stick as close to as possible, but in no ways am I, as Paul says, I have not attained yet. So in many ways, it's an ongoing process of refining, trying different things, seeing what work and what doesn't work, and then making those changes. And also there's seasons. Some seasons it's easier to do something else, or there's something that needs more attention, and then it will require a change in schedule. So I always like to put that disclaimer in there, because I don't want to paint this picture that we live this perfect life, or that I live this perfect life and I always get it right. I don't most of the time. It's a struggle. It's you miss something here, or you're supposed to wake up early and you overslept. So these things happen as well. I used to be, is there a word, a late nighter? I don't know if there's such a thing. I used to work late at night for many years, do all my Bible study, my praying and everything late at night. But then some years ago, I decided to switch, to change it to early mornings. So I get up pretty early in the morning. 3 o'clock is my usual time that I get up in the mornings. I do have if it was a busy night, so if we had some kind of event or I had to work late for some kind of deadline, or the kids had something going on, or if somebody's sick, obviously then I might sleep a little bit later. But normally I wake up around 3, and then I have a bit of time just to meditate, just pray a little bit and think with God. And then normally I would do, if there's any work that urgently needs to be done. So instead of working late at night, I will do it first thing in the morning. And then normally around 5 o'clock, I would then get into reading Bible, praying, have my quiet time before the kids wake up around 6 o'clock. So if I'm, Saturdays are different, because then I wake up and then I'm just spending the time studying for the message. And then if I'm teaching class, then I would also use that time to prepare for classes and so on. So it depends on what's going on in the week, but normally time between 3 and 6, that's the time that I use to prepare for the day, prepare what needs to be done, put my thoughts together, talk things through with God, look at my schedule, and then from 6 o'clock, it's, we say, go time.
Well, that's amazing that you start so early. I mean, 3 a.m. go time is Spartan. That's pretty rugged. I don't know. I don't think I can name a lot of missionaries that are up at 3. There's a few. There's some that I could name, but up at 3 is pretty rugged. So you're saying you're up at 3 o'clock, and let me paint a little background here for context. Pastor Gerold is married. He has 2 children. He also has a business that he runs, so he's really bivocational. So he's planting a church in Medellin with his wife and 2 kids and a team, and he's working a full-time job. He's running a business. So with all of that periphery, all that background that's going on, and this is actually a great testimony. A lot of people wonder, can I be bivocational and do missions? Can I be bivocational and plant a church? Can I be bivocational and serve in the kingdom? Can I do that? Can I, in some cases, some people even ask Pastor Gerold, can I be married, have children, be bivocational, and be a missionary? Can I do that? Because there's not a lot of images of that. I mean, you see guys on the field with their family and they're completely supported, so they don't have to worry about working a full-time job. Or you see guys that, okay, well, I'm single or I'm married, but I'm not single and I'm not married with kids and also working. So you're actually kind of rare, actually. You're very rare in that respect. So that's why this picture, this snapshot today we're taking of your life is important. It touches a lot of different people that are in your position as a married man, in your position with children, in your position as bivocational, and yet you're still doing it. So your day is going to be really, really layered, I want to say. So to get ahead of all of your layers, okay, besides being the husband, besides being the daddy, besides running the business, besides being the head pastor, besides leading the team, besides organizing and preparing for the week for the mission and the schedule, you're managing all these layers, and you're getting up at 3 a.m. to do it. That's incredible.
I tried 2 a.m. for a bit, but that didn't go so well.
I'm sure the rest of your body is thanking God that you took
the
extra hour.
My body was like, no, we're not doing this.
So if you're getting up at 3, what time are you going to bed? The day before, what time are you going to bed?
I try to not get to bed any later than 10. So, but for example, Monday evenings, we have a leadership team meeting online from 8:30 until 9:30. So Monday evenings tend to be a little bit later, but 10 o'clock at the latest. 9 o'clock, if I can get it, 9 o'clock, I'll be very happy.
So that window, your sleep window, is somewhere between 9 and 10, hopefully closer to 9 to 3.
Yes.
Okay, so you're getting your 5.5 to 6, and then you're up at 3. House is quiet. Or you're home. So basically, in this 3 to 6 period, you're at home, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I'm at home.
Is there a special place that you go to? Because obviously you don't want to wake your wife at 3 a.m. because you want a happy marriage. So you're not going to wake her at 3.
Yeah.
And you also want happy children, so you're not waking them at 3. So you're talking about, okay, you rise out of bed and you quickly move. Obviously, where are you going? Is there a special office, a room, or a place that you go?
I'm just in the living room, and so the kids took my study, so so I'm in the living room.
They're coming for everything, Pastor Gerald.
Yeah,
They're coming for everything.
so,
Territory by territory,
yeah,
they're coming for everything.
yes. So I'm
So
just in the
okay.
living room, and everybody's sleeping, so it's a nice quiet time. Even the birds are still sleeping, and the cars. So it's quiet, and it's a good time to just do whatever needs to be done and think with God and just prepare my mind and heart for the day. So some days I'm very tired. I get up at 3, but I sit on the couch and sleep. I pretend I'm praying, but so,
Oh,
so
you have the sacred prayer meeting
yeah, it's very
with your
deep.
eyes closed. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's not perfect. There's a lot of times where I'm too tired to get up at 3, and then I kind of try to listen to how my body is responding, because I know I don't want to overexert myself as well, because then I won't be able to perform the rest of the week. So if I feel I'm too tired, I would sleep an extra hour, get up at 4, or sometimes even at 5. And then once a week, I might sleep until 6, like on a Saturday morning, because then
Oh my
there's a
gosh.
little bit more. I
Backslid.
know,
You
I
gotta be
know,
kidding me.
I
Goodness
know.
gracious.
It's like, who was
Wow.
it? It
You
was
sleeping in?
John Wesley. Was it John Wesley that said, I think he was like 80 years old, and he wrote in his diary saying, I'm getting old now, and it's, I can't really use some word, something like, I'm backsliding because it's becoming harder and harder for me to get up at 5. And it's like, he's 80 years old. Yo.
Wow. Yeah.
So
It's,
yeah.
how has this helped you? How has this benefited you? This shotgun start, so to speak. How has this benefited you? Because I can tell you now that a good deal of the missionaries listening to the program, and those that are considering missions, they're not up that early. So the first question they're asking themselves is, what is the benefit in that? Because they definitely know what the detriment is. I'm losing sleep. Because even if you say I'm going to bed at 9 or 10 o'clock, they're still saying that I need that solid 8 or that solid 7. So what have you seen over the years in this semi-rigid, fluid schedule of getting around 3 or 4ish? Where have you seen the benefits in your missionary life?
So I mean, I would definitely say that every person needs to push their own boundaries, because we're not the same. What works for me is not going to work for someone else. So
Sure.
I tested a lot of different schedules to find what works very well. Like I said, I used to work at night, but I found that when I'm up late, my brain is tired. So because I've already spent the whole day, so I'm not able to, I'm just sitting there. I'm not really creative. I'm not thinking clearly. Whereas early in the morning, when you get up, they call it your best hours of the day. So that's when you have more clarity. It's quiet. You can focus. And it also sets you up for the rest of the day. But mostly the main benefit for me is just having that extra time, because there's just not enough time during a day. There's too much to be done. And oftentimes I don't like to just leave things for the next day, because Jesus said tomorrow has its own trouble. So I don't want to add trouble to tomorrow's trouble. So it helps to focus. It helps to get key things done. So like I said, I would use it for Bible study if I need to prepare for something. I do spend the time reading and praying as well, but I extend that time to the full 3 hours if I'm preparing for a message or a class or something like that. Otherwise, I do try to catch up on things that I'm behind on, or to get all my emails done, so that I know I don't have any pending things when I start the day. But it helps to take that, I could say, that pressure off of you, so that you don't feel like by 9 o'clock in the morning, I feel like the day it's gone. Like then, honestly, it feels like the rest of the day is it's going to be gone before you can get into it. So most of the work for me needs to be done before like 10 in the morning, and then the rest, because the rest of the day tends to be more unpredictable. It's either meetings or church things going on, or kids or something. So it's more unpredictable, but the morning hours tend to be more controllable. and predictable. So it helps to spend those hours to do what you really, really need to get to.
That's one of the chief complaints, especially with bivocational missionaries and pastors, is that they don't have enough time.
Yeah.
I mean, and when they've got a family, even with or without kids, you've got a wife, you've got children, or you're a family unit. And if you've got a job, you're working a full-time job, you're working 40, 50 hours a week. And one of the big chief complaints about doing missions and being effective with your schedule is that there's not enough time. There's not enough time to do adequate outreach. There's not enough time for study. Some of the chief challenges are not enough time for personal study, preparation, message prep, personal devotional time, not enough time in the Word, not enough time for evangelism, not enough time for ministry, not enough time for administrative things. They just kind of run out of time. Not enough time for your family, not enough time for yourself, just not enough time. So your solution to combat that, because that's a pretty common challenge, is that you just start your day earlier.
Yeah.
And I like the way you said that I get a lot done before the day begins.
Yeah.
So almost like your day begins early so that you can actually have a day. So that the other things that seem to eat away at your time don't leach into your personal time. You just kind of get that stuff done ahead of time. Yeah. I also found it funny that you felt like at 9 a.m. your day is over.
Yeah,
most people
literally feels like that.
They're starting their missionary schedule. They're starting the work. Even their job. Everything's starting at 9. When you've kind of jumped the hoop a little bit, and you're starting at 3 and 4.
Yeah, I was laughing on Sunday at church because we were just before church. We were just standing and fellowshipping, and I looked at my watch because church starts at 9. And I said to somebody, I said, I've been up for 6 hours already. So then you realize, like, wow, my day, that's a big chunk. That's half of your day or a third of your day already gone by the time that church starts in the morning. So it's good. I enjoy that. It might not work for everybody, and it's not in the Bible that you have to get up that early, even though I do think that it's worth to try and beneficial, but you have to you have to spend time getting into it because your body does take time to adjust to it. And then also getting good sleep is very, very important. I have no problem sleeping. When I close my eyes, I'm gone. I don't have issues sleeping. So I know about a lot of people, they struggle to fall asleep, and so they tend to be up through the night, and that's why they can't get up early. So it really depends what works, but I think it's good to push our boundaries. We will never have enough time. Actually, I once read something where somebody said, actually there's no such thing as not enough time because we all get the same time. So it's more about how do I manage that time. And then also, something that you always have said to me, Pastor Renaldo, is that delegate things. If you don't have enough time, then give it to somebody else to do, so that you can free up your time. So those are, for me, they've become very important. Make more time, manage your time well, and then also delegate tasks to other people. So that's something that I'm still growing in a lot, but thanks to people like you who have been helping me to push me in delegating and getting other, more hands, it really helps. So it's good.
Yeah, that word delegate is interesting. At the heart of that word is 2 words: training and trust. Yeah. Like if you train someone, then delegation is just an extension of the trust. Well, more importantly, it's an extension of the training where they actually get to apply what you trained them in. But if you never delegate it to them, they never get a chance to actually try what they've been trained in, right? And also, you haven't communicated that you trust them. So they're like, what is the training for? So that you can continue to do it. So in their mind, they're thinking that. So
yeah.
At any rate, I like your thoughts about just not trying to necessarily get more time, because that's the myth. The myth is go get more time, dig through your schedule and go find more time, but actually to be more efficient in the time that you have.
Yeah.
Because like you made a great point. We all have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours, 168 hours in a week. We all have that. no, it's not like one guy is getting gifted with more time and one person being gifted with less, but
Yes.
rather it's the efficiency.
Mm.
So now you told me how you begin your personal day. We're talking 3 or 4 in the morning, and you said what you do. Um, when do you begin to get into your corporate schedule? Those layers of responsibility you're now running into, like the layer of responsibility of being a husband, the layer of responsibility of being a father, the layer of responsibility
Yeah.
with your business, the layer of responsibility pastorally. When do you start getting into those layers of responsibility?
Mm. Yeah, so between 6 and 7, then is kind of, we can call it family time, but it's more just getting the kids ready for school,
Okay.
making sure the house is neat, and I don't like leaving a house that's not tidy, because you have to come back to that later.
Welcome home.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to step into. I mean, it happens, but we have a house rule to make your bed, make sure things are neat. So when you come back, at least you have a bed that's made up. Um, so 6 to 7 we get ready. Then just after 7, I drop the kids off at school, which is also on the way to the office. And then most of the time I'll go to the gym for 45 minutes just to get some exercise, take a shower at the gym, and then go to the office from there. So then I should be at work around between 8:30 to 9:15, and then start working. And then normally we have around 10 o'clock, we have a short like staff prayer with everybody. We just have maybe 10 minutes of prayer, just talking to each other and then praying together, and then
Okay.
we get into it. So my schedule is during the day is quite flexible, but mostly on Tuesdays. Um, Recently, I've been picking up the kids on Tuesdays, and then I would take them to their uh, activities, so swimming and all those kind of things.
Okay.
So Tuesdays I'm mostly with them in the afternoon, and then I'll continue work or whatever needs to be done after that, like after 4. Um, yeah, so my daily schedule is it changes every day. It really depends on what's going on. So it can be church, it can be meeting, coffee or meetings or counseling with people. I tend to schedule my things in advance, and everybody knows that I like to work that way, just to make sure that I give people the time that is required. Otherwise, it just gets, how do you say it? It gets trapped into other things, and then you have to rush things. So I ask people that if it's possible that we book things in advance, and I make a proper invitation that I send to them, and we book the time, and they know that's their time with me, and that's definitely not going to change, and I'm not going to do other things during that time. So for me, that's also something that I practice and try to do, is to be present in the moment with if you're with a specific person, and that you spend the time with them, and you make sure you pay attention. Otherwise, because it's easy when your life is busy to, and I fall into that sometimes, where you've got so much going on that you're talking to someone, but you're also answering a message and then this email, and then another. There's so many things going on, and then you miss that moment, and then the person doesn't feel like that you care, or that they had a good conversation with you. So I think it's important that we are present. So in order to do that, it's important for me to know that my schedule is organized and booked ahead of time. If it can be, it happens that it can't. If there's an emergency, obviously, or somebody wants to talk to me about an issue, then I'll just make time for that. So
I would. I know in your schedule, the way you mention things, it's very ordered. But in the middle of your order, you have a lot of flexibility that a lot of bivocational pastors don't have.
yeah,
Many bivocational pastors, their hours are kind of set.
yeah,
Their responsibilities are set, so it's inflexible for them to just be able to have the fluidity to bounce in and out of their work schedule.
yes,
Meaning that what you do, a lot of them do. Like as far as, okay, I get the kids, have a little bit of time with your wife. You didn't mention that, but I know you do. Have a little bit of time with your wife, take the kids to school, gym, if you gym. But then there's this block of time which eats up 40 to 50 hours of your week, Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday, where a pastor might be, or missionary might be planning a church or doing it where they're locked in and they can't really travel or go anywhere. They don't have the flexibility to bounce out on Tuesday. So that's there. So you have a blessing that a lot of bivocational pastors don't have. You have that flexibility of kind of having the liberty, because you run your own business, to step out of the business and into church and ministry, and then step back into the business. And you can do that with irregularity. You don't have to set a schedule. You can schedule events, but you have a lot of flexibility there. And that's big. That's huge, because that can actually take hours that wouldn't be as effective for missions. Suddenly they become effective because you have the ability to insert that into your schedule anytime you think fit. I got a couple questions behind that. The first one is, in the flexibility that you have, are you still able to profitably run your business? Because that would be the argument. Like, okay, yeah, I have my own landscaping business, I have my own carpentry business, but pastor, if I started putting in counseling appointments in my schedule, I wouldn't make as much money to take care of my family. So are you able to take care of your family with this flexibility in your schedule?
Yeah, I guess it also depends on what kind of business you are running and how you're running it. Maybe just on a side note, so that people, the listeners also know, I used to work in corporate for 13 years. So I also, and Pastor Renaldo, also how long I fought and prayed about getting out so that I can have more flexibility in my time. So for many years, I prayed about it and planned and threatened to leave. And you told me many times, no, stay. So it is a great blessing, but it doesn't come without its own burdens and risks. Business is risky, and it can easily consume more time than work. There's a saying, I left my in America it would be, I left my 9 to 5 so that I can work 5 to 9. And that's what happens when you go into business. Like, it can just consume your life because you are the boss, and if you don't work, you don't get paid. So it can be easy to, instead of creating freedom, to actually take more of your time and to create a greater imbalance in your ministry. So that's something really to be careful of and to be mindful of. Like, going into business is not something that needs to be taken lightly. It can be a trap. So sometimes it's better just to work your job and to trust God for your time and do the most you can. And those are words that you've told me in the past. So with me, I do have a little bit of flexibility. We also have a team of people, so I do get to delegate a lot of the work and plan ahead of. That's why my schedule is planned out so meticulously, because I want to be able to know where I have freedom to do things and to book people. So it's something like, for example, like visitation. So I've tried many times, and I'm still trying to have a fixed day for visitation during the week. So normally it would be Tuesday evenings after work. I try to go and visit somebody at their house or spend time with them. But I find that most of my visitation, if I can call it like that, or me seeing people, having a coffee with a church member or doing counseling, it actually happens randomly throughout the week. So like today, I booked appointments with 2 church members at 2 different times, and it just, one person called me and I called the other one to book a time, and I just look forward to some free time. So it's, in that, I find that it's easier for me to go on what works for people. One of the things about our church in Mainland is that most of the people, almost like 99% of the people in church, are also working. So we don't have any like full-time team members that are only in church. Everybody's working. Everybody's either running a business or has a job to do. So sometimes it can be really difficult to say, okay, this is my day, and this is when you have to make time for me, because I'm running my business. but rather to see when people are available, when they have planned schedule, and then we find a mutual opening, and then that's when we will schedule a time for visitation or for coffee or to spend time or for discipleship. So that's something that has worked for me very well.
Wow. Yeah, I think you've had a taste of both. To be fair, you've been in both cycles. You've been in the job that's been inflexible for 13 years, and then in corporate America, in corporate South Africa, and now you're on the other side, which is a little bit more entrepreneurial, which is higher risk,
Yeah.
more flexibility. And that flexibility provides the risk, but at the same time, opportunities that you can decide how much money you want to make or you need to make, or how much you can do as far as your effort is concerned. I guess that's how you write your paycheck, by your effort, really, in entrepreneurship, right? So that impacts your daily living. That impacts your family. That impacts your how do you survive, how you stay on the field, how you take care of yourself. A lot of missionaries have had small businesses on the side that have funded their mission, but they also had to run those businesses efficiently and effectively. Otherwise, there's no money that's coming in, and you can't stay on the field. You can't take care of your family. Your children suffer. Your family suffers. So far, it sounds like you're pretty busy. How do you find time with you and your wife? How does that figure in this schedule?
So I haven't even spoken about her schedule because she's also quite busy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think with us currently, in the past, we have made like a Friday morning, we would go for coffee. That would have been our time. But for the last couple of months, she's had like a very hectic schedule on during the week, and there was a lot of changes in our workplace. So we haven't had that much opportunity, but we do try to make opportunity where there is. So currently, we also kind of do it, how do you say, by ear in a way. So, okay,
Yeah.
when can we spend time? But we also try to, we have Saturday mornings that we have family time, which I try to keep open until we have outreach later in the morning. So we would spend time as a family, and then Saturday mornings early, me and her would also just sit and talk, and then Sunday evenings as well. After the kids are to bed, then we will just relax and have tea together, coffee or tea together, and just talk. So yeah.
Sounds like a date morning or date night, date breakfast.
When it's like that, you have to. I love structure, and I love having things happen at the same time. Always, it's nice, but in seasons where you can't have that, then you just have to find the time and to make the time. And yeah, sometimes we're so busy, we go a week and it's like, hey, we didn't even have coffee time this week. And so but then we always come back to, okay, how can we make time for that?
Because this is the challenge. This is another major challenge, often in couples, particularly on the missionary field. That's often there without the vocation, the second vocation. But when you're bivocational and you're working, whether flexible or inflexible, but at the same time you're pastoring a church, and then you've got your wife, your spouse, trying to find the quality of time, trying to find the quantity in the schedule, trying to find that connect, it's a battle. It's a huge challenge. I don't think anyone's ever figured it out completely. I think there's got to be intention.
Yes.
It's got to be intentional on both parts. It's just not going to happen organically, magically. What will happen is that you'll go like ships in the night, passing each other, but nothing's happening. Secondly, there's got to be quality, because you're not going to have quantity, because like you said, there's only so many hours. So in the hours that we have, there has to be quality. Not necessarily productive as far as producing something, but intimacy is what I would call quality. Intimacy is as far as connection, as far as being together, being not just present, but being participatory. And then I think also too, I think it has to be planned. I think it's just not going to happen accidentally. It's got to, you've got to decide that this is going to be this, which helps. Because that's a biggie. That's a huge biggie. The day of the life is so interesting. We talk about the man of God or the missionary in a day in the life, and that's a big component of it. That's a big
Yes.
component. Their spouse, for a single missionary, not as much at all, actually, but with a couple, that's a huge component, and I don't want to walk past that.
Mm.
So to that end, let me ask you this question: what would be the disciplines you think that you are trying to build into your daily life? A day in the life, usually you have these disciplines. These, you could call them convictions, you could call
Mm.
them habits, routines, things that you do that help you do what you do in the kingdom. Convictions. You mentioned a few. You mentioned prayer. You mentioned quiet time with God. You mentioned Bible study.
Mm.
But what are some ones you could think of that, okay, I've got to do this? Like, for instance, a friend of mine, no matter what he's doing, every 3 hours, he will isolate himself for 5 minutes
Mm.
and just be quiet. He'll go to the bathroom, he'll go to his car, but every 3 hours of his waking hours, he will isolate himself for 5 minutes and be quiet before God and just be quiet. No
Sure.
prayers, just, but he does
Yeah.
that with that's it. He said it's a discipline that helps him kind of rally the day. For
Mm.
instance, like the days in the beginning of his day, in the middle of his day, at the end of his day, he gets this 5 minutes every 3 hours where he rallies the day. He gets his mind, resets his mind. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
identity, responsibility, activity. Okay, identity, responsibility, activity. Okay.
Mm.
Every 3 hours, he does that for like just 5 minutes of just getting quiet. And it's just his little thing. It's his little reset. It's
Mm.
his little
Mm.
plug back into life. Because, like you said, you get so caught up in all these different things. You're running, you're running, you're running, you're running. You find yourself, as John Wooden said, a lot of activity and very little achievement.
Yeah.
So,
That's very easy.
what are some little things that maybe you do, little insight you could give us from some little things that maybe you do that maybe you don't think are that big, but they could be big because, like my friend does, it could easily help you. It could be
Yeah.
that reset. It could be that little continuing thing that kind of feeds your day or prompts you or motivates you to continue through.
Mm. Mm. I think I will probably start with there's a, I don't like to use this term because it has a bad connotation to it. It's used in the secular world quite a lot, not in a bad way, but it has a, anyway, it's mindfulness, just being present in everything we do. And even though, for me, it's even though I'm busy during the day, I purpose to be conscious of what I'm doing and to be in that moment. It's important for me to enjoy my day and to be able to enjoy it with God, to think with God about what I'm doing, and even just to be prayerful throughout the day about things. For me, 3 hours can go by and I don't even like blink. Oh, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't notice, and so I have to be present. I like that idea of stepping away every 5 minutes. So I don't maybe do it as religiously, if I can say that, but I do take breaks where I just get up from my desk, call somebody, or walk around, or just go talk to the team and just have a conversation with them, not even necessarily about work, but just to focus, to take my focus away from the work that I'm doing. But being mindful, and I think Proverbs chapter 3, acknowledging God in everything that we do. For me, that's important, to bring God into my work, to bring God into my daily routine, even going to the gym, just spending that time meditating on the word, meditating on the work, meditating on like God's purpose and what next, and people. Spend a lot of time thinking about people throughout the day and talking about people and reflecting about people. So for me, it's really important to practice, to learn to enjoy every day, to be present in every day. I always say this, but we never know when is our last day. Like, I don't want to spend a day that I'm just going like rushing, and it happens, but I'm just rushing, and then I get to the end of the day and I'm like, what did I actually do?
Mm-hmm.
There has to, I try to find purpose if I can say it in that way, to make sure there's an eternal purpose in everything. So that's one thing, and then the other thing for me is definitely the habit. I love thinking about habits, but structure is very important for me, because that structure helps us to be effective. It helps us to be productive. It helps us to be good stewards of our time and our resources. So I like to be able to give an account to at least to myself and to God about what I actually did in this day. And I'm not, again, I'm not saying that in a way that, I'm getting it right. There's many days where I look back and I'm like, man, what a waste. It's like I didn't think with God today. Like I was just emotional or angry, or I wasted. I was on social media for an hour. Like what happened to me? So these things, they happen where you realize. But I think when you have structure, you can pick up those bad habits, or those times where you didn't spend your time well, and then you can correct them. But if you don't have structure, you don't pick those things up because you're not taking account of your time and your resources. So for me, that's very important, to be able to know, okay, I can look back on the day and say, okay, this is what happened, this is what I did, I got this and this and this done, I spoke to this person, I prayed about this, I visited that one, or like those things are important for me, to know that every day has been spent productively, and that I spent the day. I want to live my life being spent, so that when I die one day, or when Jesus comes back, that I know that there's no regrets. I spent it all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's important.
You mentioned a lot about your work schedule, which is a large chunk of your waking hours. Maybe out of 168 hours a week, maybe as much as 40% of that is working hours. Easy. So how do you blend your working schedule with your church schedule? Because that's another area of contention for the average missionary who's bivocational, is like, how do I blend in my work schedule and my church schedule? And what usually happens is the work schedule wins, actually. The work, because that's like sustenance, bread and butter. I've got to be a provider for my family. So the work schedule will often win. And then the church schedule gets the crumbs. The church schedule gets, okay, I've got an extra hour here. And then your family's going to be asking for time. So they're going to want to be number 2 in the pecking order next to the work schedule. So it's work schedule, family schedule. And then whatever is the residual when you're not sleeping, that becomes ministry. And then you find a guy or missionary who says, I'm bivocational and I can only afford to go soul winning 15 minutes a week. And I have no time. I'm studying the Bible in my car on the way to service because there isn't enough time. So without going all the way through that, lead me to the part about just, okay, how do you blend the work schedule with the church schedule?
Yeah, so I think again, for me, structure is very important. So planning is very important for me. Knowing what is happening, who's doing what needs to be done during the week. So in terms of church schedule, definitely that's an area, but I know that currently we are in a season where it's a season of building, it's a season of new planting, so there's a lot going on. Most of the people on our team are either, both working full time, have families with small children, so we are all like really pushing to, working overtime to get things done. So just schedule, there's a lot more that we want to do, and we're always talking about it and planning for it and seeing how we can grow in our capacity. But planning ahead of time for the things like soul winning, also doing soul winning wherever and whenever we are, but then also having that corporate time of soul winning. For us as a church, we have it once a week on a Saturday. I would love to have it more. I've tried to have it more, but it's just, it hasn't worked. So, but I'm always praying about that to see how to find a time that can work for the whole church, to have more times of soul winning during the week purposefully. But a lot of those things, so like soul winning or discipleship or spending time with church members, for me, it's important for me to bring those things into my daily life, because I know that I might not have as much time as I want to have for it during the week, to separate that time to say, okay, I'm going to visit 5 people in the week. Like, I can't do that. That's not going to be possible. So how can I then schedule things in such a way that I can either meet with somebody while I'm like, hey, drive with me. I have to go to to Johannesburg for a meeting, but I can pick you up on the way and you can just drive with me and then wait in the car or something like that. So how can I blend my church schedule with my working schedule? How can I bring that in so that I can be more effective at that time? So those are some of the things that I often think about and try to work around. But we have church services twice a week. We have Bible school on Saturdays, and then I also teach an extra short class on Sundays after church. And then we also have evangelism on Saturdays, and then there is some church meetings during the week and music practice and smaller activities during the week. So that's more or less our schedule.
So you fold that in to your work schedule, and also I'm putting this in retrospect to your you mentioned earlier about the 9 to 10 a.m. bedtime, 10 p.m. bedtime.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's cramming a lot in.
Yes.
So you're pretty active. Which is again, you're not going to be bivocational and not be busy. It's just impossible. It's just too much happening. It's almost by definition, bivocational means busy. And that's a lot of people. That's a lot of folks who are working, and they say, well, God has called me to missions, but I've got this job. And they always think that I've got to lose the job to pick up the call, when maybe I can have the job and I can also pursue the call. That it's on the table that I could work even full time and be involved in starting a work of God, that God could give me wisdom. He doesn't have to give me more hours in the day, but he can give me wisdom about it. So that's just some good insight from you. And let me close with this thought from you. How does your day end?
So most evenings, when I'm at home most evenings, maybe 2 evenings in the week I'm not, but family time again from 5 to around 7:30. So we purpose to eat together every night as a family, read the Bible to the kids before they go to bed, just really spending time with them. And then from 8 to 9, then that will be time with me and my wife, where we will just kind of tidy up and wind down and get ready for bed. So, and then around 9 o'clock, if nothing else is happening, we will have some tea or whatever, and then pray together. So we pray together every night, even if it's just for 2 minutes. If we're too tired, it's like, yeah, thank you, God. So, yes, thank you. So, but we really purpose to pray before we sleep together, to have that time together. So whether it's 15 minutes or half an hour or just 2 minutes, we just do it anyway. So, and then 9 o'clock, between 9 and 10, then it's bedtime. So then I sleep.
That's a full day. It's a full week. It's fully packed, and I see why you need the structure to navigate it. But it's doable, and I think, like you said, if it's organized, if it starts early, if there's purpose to it, then the activity serves the purpose. But if there's no purpose to it, there's a whole lot of activity, and it just doesn't hit the mark. Just doesn't hit the mark.
And it's not working together for, like you're saying, for the same purpose. So I believe that everything, if again, Proverbs 3, if I'm inviting God into my life every day and I'm walking with him, and I know that what I'm doing is what he has called me to do, and I'm doing it with all my heart, then everything contributes towards that purpose. And it might never be the way we want it to be, because for us, we would want it to be perfect. Like, I do this and I visit 30 people every week, and I called 50 people this morning, in the church, and I prayed with 10 of them. Like, I would love that. That's like, my heart burns for that. But I know it's just, maybe it's not the season, or maybe it will never be the season. Can I be okay with what God has for me right now? The season that I am in, can I spend it like fully for what God has for me? And can I really use my time, and can I enjoy what God has for me? And for me, that's important. Like, we have to enjoy what we're doing. We have to put our hearts into it and pour ourselves out to it. Like, we might be waiting for that perfect season, but it might never come. Like, this might be it. And then what? So
Yes.
yeah, it's like, just do it with God
Beautiful.
and do it with all your heart. Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor Gerold. This has been a great program. Thank you guys for joining us on Missions Monday. We've been looking at a day in the life of a missionary overseas in the country of South Africa with Pastor Gerold. God bless you, Pastor Gerold, and I'll see you in a few months.
Yes. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you for everyone that listened.
Take care.
God bless you.